The children's hospital is a long walk from the train station, a far extremity from the beating heart of the city. I am called in for a series of routine checkups. The waiting room is familiar and familial territory, and the wait is, predictably, long. In the centre of the room, there is a giant-scale game of Connect 4, a collection of small-scale toys, and a medium-sized fish tank. Me and my dad steal a game of Connect 4 when a younger child is beckoned on the tannoy. He is yellow. I am red. I lie on my side as the cardiologist rummages around my chest with the ultrasound probe, as though rifling for keys in a deep pocket. When he finds what he's looking for, he settles and presses down with force. The sound of my blood flowing trundles like the 10:05 2-minute late train I caught this morning. Destination bodily, but no stopping, and considerably more reliable. Clogged vessels. I slip back into the pursed lips of a big, white beast. Swallowed, but not yet dead, I lie still so as not to disturb the creature from within. Its stomach begins to rumble. Magnetic borborygamy. A document detailing the results is handed to me, and I'm informed that, subject to a further analysis, I will likely require a stent in the next 2 or so months. A stent is a small mesh tube that will hold open my arteries. In the scheme of things, it's a relatively simple procedure. On the way home, I stare at a phrase hanging between the jargon. I'm not sure I agree, but I suppose I should probably just be grateful for the compliment. My mum and dad sit either side of me at the hospital. A doctor tells me that I will not be having a stent. I will be having open heart surgery. As I wait for the train, I stare at a couple of yellow warning signs zip-tied to a chain-link fence. The first shows a man slipping on a mysterious black liquid, and the second with a large bolt of electricity pointing at his chest. Bored, I notice that the falling motion in the first seems to lead seamlessly into the second, where the figure is lying on the ground. In a mental animation, I picture the poor man slipping on the pool of ink, only to be struck by a bolt of pointing lightning before the ambulance arrives. I think of his family, his friends, his disdain for the colour yellow, his ambitions, his dignity. As the train trembles away from the station, I leave him there. Take care. Hospital, Ward 12, bags on floor. In the room opposite, someone is deeply ill. I take my shoes off and lie on the bed. I am not unwell, but my irritating ability to take up space makes me feel sick. Nurses rush, patients struggle, and the weight of underfunding pushes down on a system underappreciated, underestimated, and under threat. All the while, I sit here taking up a bed for an operation that hasn't happened yet, insulting those with serious injury with my apparent healthiness. I wish the operation would come, both now and never. My wish is granted almost immediately when the procedure is delayed 3 times over the next week. I wash myself in an antiseptic solution and pull the white theatre gown over my shoulders. Though I have not died, I feel like a phantom. I slide on my pyjama socks and sit on my bed, and the inevitable cracks of doubt, inevitably, begin to surface. I realise that if I'm not lucky, These exact moments might become my last. These thoughts my final. I acknowledge to myself this possibility, before, with the swift stroke of medical logic, eradicating it. Risk dying or die regardless. There is no life after death, there are no miracles, and here, there is no choice. When the anaesthetist arrives, we shake hands. Shuffling down the corridor, I find myself clinging to the ground beneath my feet. Heartbeat. I am lying on a bed, about to sleep, but I'm not tired. I throw my parents a watery smile while the anaesthetist fiddles with the cannula on my left arm. It's a strange bedtime routine. They ask me to count down from 10, and I do. I asked the nurse to switch it off. The intensity of the painkillers causes extreme nausea, headaches and dizziness, and in the darkness of the intensive care unit, it is hard to aim. I throw up again and again until it comes out clear and pulls in my lap. He is living and breathing and puking. The next morning, I am moved out of intensive care and into a shared room with another boy my age, with a similar condition. I overhear that he had been allowed home, but returned to playing football too quickly and things got worse. Apparently, that was months ago. Before the operation, I trained gymnastics twice a week. Though I am no longer in the intensive care unit, the medication prescription has not become any smaller. I have never been able to take pills, but there are a number of ways around this. Some of the medication is concealed in food, some dissolved, and most administered through one of the half a dozen cannulas pitched into the surface of my skin. The punctured one-a-day packet of aspirin serves as a cardiac calendar. This is day 1. Eating is, unsurprisingly, vital, and surprisingly, difficult. My grandparents have sent me a large bag of nuts as it's important to eat lots of protein. The cashews are my favourite. They are small enough to manage, but nutritious enough to matter. I place the little kidneys down on the hospital table and stare at them. I haven't been to the toilet in days. Eyeing a particularly mutant specimen, I ponder the method of attack. Fingers to shell, to lips, to stomachy death. I reach for the prey, thumbing the nut into my grasp and bringing it closer to doom. But as it reaches my eye level, I notice something strange. I look closer, following the curve to the head. Wait. Not a nut. A tiny, crooked body, pale, wrinkled and hunched, but I do not recognise him. I slice across his chest. How does it feel? Useless chunk of flesh and shell, foodstuff for the bigger creature, matter, energy and no more. Inanimate nut. Animate not. I am a cashew. I am a cashew. The hospital bed is hard like rocks and nuts. I shift my gaze from the blank wall opposite my bed to the television dangling in front of it. A crane-like system allows it to move freely in any direction, like a strange fishing line with reality TV as bait. And, credit where credit's due, I am caught. I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. Though I'm not, I can't help but empathise with the general sentiment. I watch drowsily as a man eats a testicle. This feels like a new low. When I wake up, it's dark, but it can't be later than 9 or 10. I stare up at the recessed light fixture directly above my bed, which is dimmed to its minimum intensity. Against the darkness of the room, I notice that it looks a bit like a ringed planet, picked out in a night sky. I stare into the orb until its shape is burned into my retina. As I refocus, I notice the planet's subtle and infrequent glow. A loose connection, probably, but the morphine isn't so sure. I count the number of seconds between each pulse. "14. Planetary bradycardia. It's minutes later when I wake up to the face of a bright blue-eyed nurse who checks my temperature and prods a few buttons on a monitoring screen. I take a tablet from her and dissolve it in the glass of water beside my bed. The sounds of the ward seep in through a crack somewhere. The hushed voices of nurses, a beeping monitor, an infant crying. I wonder how long they've been here. Perhaps they've only been here. Perhaps they'll never leave. These thoughts do not help me sleep. Like a disinterested god, I birth a few more planets into existence. The novelty of creation is, admittedly, wearing thin, but the dizzying effect sends me off into dark space once again. Nothing can escape a black hole. Not even sound, yet I am brought back to Earth by a strange scraping against the hospital wall, somewhere to my left. I listen carefully and try to picture the source. I'm reminded of the repeated scraping of a hacksaw on wood. I think back to technology lessons, Dad's shed, and a horror film I saw the trailer for but never watched. During the procedure, the surgeon cut my sternum with an oscillating saw, but not a hacksaw. I know this because I googled it the night before the operation. But it's far too late for construction workers. Unless it's morning already. I contemplate opening my eyes to check, terrified of the false promise of daylight. I chance it. I stare up at the light and count the number of seconds between each pulse. "14. Thereabouts. The noise makes it difficult to concentrate. I count again. Better safe than sorry. 13. Time is insignificant as 14 seconds pass in 7, each pulse faster than the last. I am a time traveller, and the past is mine. 670 million miles an hour. Faster than the speed of light, and darkness around me forever. Closer. A pulsar. I saw one. Once. In a book about space. A compact star which rotates, emitting intermittently beams of electromagnetic radiation that can be seen through special telescopes. Like a lighthouse. As the pulsar ages, the rate at which it pulses slows, until eventually it stops altogether. I am not old. It is December, and I did not know. Morning checks confirm that I am doing well. More than well, in fact. And if I'm able to use the toilet today, there's a chance I might be allowed home. With a lot of help, I make it to the large door across the ward. But as I do, a child rushes past and locks herself in shut. Her mum apologises. I hold in tears. When my turn does come, I find myself strangely nervous. I take a seat and stare at my scarred body in the full-length mirror opposite. This is the most important shit of my life. Shit happens, and I am wheeled down a long hallway and into a lift.
Ground floor.
And it is. Cold city air lingers down the main entrance and slaps my skin. I stare at the automatic doors down the corridor, inhaling and exhaling shakily as patients enter and leave. Tired. As I reach the double doors, they exhale a final breath. And so do I. The light of the outdoor world burns my eyes, pressing hard into each socket as sterile solemnity becomes city stench. Meat, pavement, piss, cigarette stains, smoke balm, wet drain, and subsequently, pulsing vein. I blink as I take it in. The car park is of course full, and so it is a 30-metre walk to a nearby street. I think I can use my feet. When I get home, I find that not much has changed. That night, I am shouting, banging the wall hard for help. Though sleeping is easier when there is quiet and a familiar bed, without the nurses, it is getting up which is the problem. My chest is too weak and too painful to lift my upper body weight, and so I must be hauled from under the covers like a semi-limp sandbag. For the first time in a week, I am desperate for the toilet. After a minute, I start to wonder if I'm being ignored, my family feigning obliviousness in the pursuit of a moment's peace, and who would blame them? As I prepare to soil myself, it is my grandpa who wakes and enters the room. I'm not the only one who's tired. It is harder to concentrate because of the way the heart-lung machine alters the blood. Despite this, I've discovered a new addiction to pineapple juice and watching the shopping channel. I don't remember either being on the list of possible side effects. One nurse has drawn a few illustrations to help me remember the stretching positions, for when I'm able to do them. I stare at the stick figures, contorted, folded, and bent into various painful-looking shapes. Before the operation, I was training gymnastics twice a week. My first walk outdoors is not promising. I do not reach the top of my street before extreme dizziness makes me and my parents turn back. But each day, there is steady progress. When the sun appears, we make it to the local park. It's the good kind of green. Just from the path, I notice a tree, punctured at the chest. Bleeding. Before I left the hospital, one of the nurses handed me a plastic sample tube stuffed with sprawling blue wires and asked if I wanted to keep it. During the operation, one end of each wire was attached to my heart and the other fed out through the skin on my torso as a means for pacing its beat. When I opened the container, I noticed a small clump of fleshy residue on one end of one of the wires. A tiny piece of me. Matter of the heart. I lie on my side as the cardiologist rummages around my chest with the ultrasound probe, as though rifling for keys in a deep pocket. When he finds what he's looking for, He settles and presses down with force.